All right, we're back. Welcome to another episode. How are we doing today? Mandy, what's going on?
Amani, I have
Yes.
one statement and one question for you. Okay.
Okay, talk to us.
What do you want first, the statement or the question?
The statement first, then the question.
Okay. I have completed one item on my bingo card.
All right, which item
Yeah.
is that? Okay, can you share which item that is?
That is creative space complete.
Oh, nice. Okay, when did
Yeah.
we finish that over the weekend?
I finished that over the weekend. Yeah. So for anybody listening or watching that didn't watch one of the mini episodes, Amani forced me to create a bingo card. And the bingo card is things that I want to accomplish this year. So we actually shared our bingo cards with everybody on our mini a couple weeks ago. And now I'm looking at my bingo card, and one of them was to finish my creative space in my
Okay,
house. And I finished it this weekend.
you did that. Okay,
Yep. Yep.
good.
Do you
What?
have how's things going on your bingo card?
Okay, for my bingo card here, I went to the dentist. So check that off.
Oh, good job, Amani. Let me
Yeah.
see your teeth. Give me a little smile. Let's
Yeah,
see your pearly
cheese.
whites. Oh, looks
I gotta
good.
go
She
back for
looks
appointment. I gotta go back for a follow-up appointment, but that's done there. So looking, that's it so far. Yeah.
okay. Do you have any cavities? Do we have any root canals, or is just
I
like
got to
fair is
get
fair?
one wisdom tooth pulled next week.
Ooh, where wisdom tooth. You're old to have a wisdom tooth pulled, aren't
Yes,
you?
yes. I am more mature to have a wisdom tooth. This is correct. Yes.
You're wise. You're so wise. Okay, here's my question. I was thinking about
Yes.
this over the weekend because I was listening to the episode with Jenny Perrin,
Hmm.
the health coach,
Yes.
and you were explaining to her that you were worried about eating when you're on the road going to and from your classes.
Got it.
So, what did you do about meals this past week? I was so curious what you did.
Okay. This past week, I had my smoothie when I got there about 45 minutes before my 11:30 class. Then
Okay.
there was a lunch event that I had to go to, so I was able to get a turkey sandwich for lunch at the event. Then I had a smoothie before my 4 o'clock class, and then I couldn't find anything in the airport. And in the time period, it was a too short of a turnaround when I got to the airport because it's a quick turnaround. So I just ate when I came home. But yeah. So that's what happened there. So I'm still figuring it out. We'll see about picking something up in the airport because the good stores are a little limited. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Time will tell. We'll ask again. We'll keep on asking. We'll see.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
we
good.
will.
That's good.
All right. Um, that is that's our good check-in. I think we should get to our guest.
I think we should definitely get to our guest because I have so many questions for him.
All right.
We are so lucky. We have the founder of ShowTec, which
Yes.
is a beloved production company, and they are in San Diego, but they service customers all over the world. They are innovators. This particular person, he loves imagination. He loves innovation. He's done live events, sporting events. He comes from a theater background. He's been inspired by Bono at a U2 concert, and our industry is better with him in it. So I'm so honored to bring Jonathan Martin to the stage.
Yes, welcome. There we go. Jonathan is on your screen. Round of applause.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes. So we hear you. Everything sounds great.
Great.
Welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Thank
Where
you.
shall we begin, man? I think you have a couple good questions to start us off, right, Mandy?
I think I do. I mean, I well, first things first, we'll go with the boring question first. ShowTech. What is it? And you started it in 1991. Like, what is it and why in the world did you start this thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So, ShowTech is short for show technology. It's all we could get for the URL at the time. Somebody had taken the other spelling in 1991. Did we even know what a URL was back then?
No.
So
No.
that's why we had to come up with our own spelling that I'm sure other people are using as well. But at our core, we're a show technology company, but we're not really wound up in the stuff. We do own a tremendous amount of gear. We're sitting in our studios today in San Diego, as you mentioned. And even though most of our shows are on the road, at the core of everything that we do, the technology does take a center stage. But more importantly, and what we'll dig into a bit together today, is the need for our humans, our people, our meeting attendees, and companies to communicate efficiently. And that's exactly why we started. We've done all kinds of crazy things, and for us, corporate theater means everything from ballet, theater, rock and roll, sporting events, theme parks, whatever has the need to amplify visuals and audio are core to our central message and our ability to, again, follow that story arc out to a variety of different audience sizes. So we love being on that part of the journey with our clients. We love the opportunity to take our toolkit and do all kinds of fun things to re-engage, educate, inspire audiences in all kinds of different ways. And I'm stoked to be here with you guys because I know you guys talk about that stuff all the time. I loved, Amani, when you were talking about stagecraft in one of the episodes not too long ago from a blocking perspective. And, I'm also jealous that somebody spent Christmas in Paris and I didn't, but I'm not going to razz on that somebody too much. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here. And so ShowTech, that's where we came from a long time ago. We celebrate 35 years this year in August. So it's been a journey.
How are you going to celebrate? That wasn't a question I wrote down, but I'm bringing it up. How are you going to celebrate? 35 years is great. You're almost midlife, almost having your midlife crisis.
Oh,
How are
I
you going
like
to
that.
celebrate?
I like the way you think. I don't know. That's a very good question. It's going to have a Mai Tai somewhere in a place that's wonderful.
Nice.
And all of our people around us. We've had a lot of our people, most of them, in fact, here through most of that journey. And the younger ones weren't even born when we started. So somewhere between that elasticity is the core of what we are, which is, a big group of people. So we're going to do what we do for you guys is we're going to gather in a circle, raise a glass, and, just be grateful that if we can support this business, it'll continue to support us.
Oh, I love that. Well, I want to build on that. We're talking about the longevity that you've had. I mean, you've been through 4 recessions, economic booms, turndowns, endless innovation, technology changes so much. What is the one through line that you've seen, like one common theme that you've seen through it all that seems to stay the same for you?
Real is real. If you can do what you say you can do, there's a value for it in a variety of different, vertical markets, if you will. So if you really are focused on being valuable for the end user and not, tooting your own horn and looking back on yourself nepotistically, but you find a way to make what we do valuable for the people that pay us to do it, that will bring you through. We have to skinny down. There's times that are lean, there's times that are less lean. But what it always comes back to is, are you good at what you do? Are you listening more than you're talking? And are we sincere in our promise to our customer to amplify that core messaging in a way that it moves the needle for the business? If we're just talking to talk, or look, my speaker's louder than yours, or this amp goes to 11, then that's not as important as being a true value to the businesses that employ all of us. We're all in the same business. We're all in the business of, gathering together, and they need each of us. We need Amani on the entertainment side. We need you on the organizational side. And somebody has to bring the stuff in the trucks to make everybody be able to see, hear, and feel why Amani is important and why the contracts that you're executing are valuable to the businesses too. So I love the kind of perfect triangle concept, but I would say that if I had to pick 2 words, it would be very real, be good at what you do.
I'm
Interesting.
glad. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. Amani, I promise I'm going to stop in a second. I'm just going to make a comment.
I don't see a mute button for her.
No,
Up
he did.
there. I
I
know you
mean,
have one for me.
my husband's a mute button, but he's locked out. He's locked out for 1 hour a day, 1 hour on Mondays only. So I'm just glad to hear you say that, because I've been in so many situations with different production or AV situations where the people make my clients feel dumb, or they've made me feel dumb because I don't know certain things. I consider myself pretty educated in that area, but there's a lot I don't know. And I just like you to hear you say, listen more than you speak, and talking about how you can serve. Because I think this is an area that can make meeting planners feel very uncomfortable or intimidated. And with the right mindset, like you have, the right service mindset, you can work together in concert, like you said. So what is that philosophy that you have where you're like, listen, we might be the smartest people in the room as it relates to this, but we just don't want to make anybody feel bad. We want to bring everybody along the education process with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Rarely are we the smartest person in the room. That's usually the client or whoever has, built the business that can afford to have all of us in the space. So that's never a primary challenge of ours. I think the biggest thing is to demystify. Our job is to make things clear and concise, and that includes the discovery, pre-production, quoting process, the early contracting process, is to not talk in a bunch of jargon, not use a bunch of language that doesn't mean anything to our contractors or, our clients or their attendees, but to talk in a way that is centered on results. So there's nobody dumb when we're all in the room together with regards to Who plugs in the flux capacitor is irrelevant. What's important to us is that we are all firing on all cylinders, and that the audience feels every bit of energy, every dollar that was invested on the stage leaves in the hearts and minds of the people that are listening to what we're all doing together. And when you're on that team together, and having come from the theater, the very word crew is that we're no good without each other. That's an extension of what we all do together, and that's one of the reasons I think we're around as long as we are. Is we don't have a show to do if somebody on the planning, producing, and client side doesn't bring us one to do. So the last thing we're going to do is make what we do sound real complicated. So you think that it's worth more money, or add more value to it in a way that's not the case. Technology should be transparent. The story should be the hero, and the messaging should be clear, concise, and easy to digest.
Oh, that's a soundbite. Love that.
There you go. Yeah. Shout out to Lincoln Poole, who's in the chat. Thank you for
Oh
commenting.
no!
So
Here
I
come the
wanna kinda
questions.
stick with
Yeah, send the questions, everybody.
yeah,
Pop them
put
in
the
the
questions
chat.
in the chat if you have them. Manny's first question. So since 1991, what has been the technological advancement that has surprised you the most?
Wow, that's a good one.
And you can think on it, because I know it's a question that might cause for some introspection. But I'm just so curious because we barely had internet back in 1991. We did with dial up and all that, to where we are today with all sorts of crazy things. Which one surprised you the most?
I don't think there was a huge surprise for us in the early days because it was very linear. It was just coming out of the analog era. So we were going from, very mechanical, focused theatrical toolkits to somewhat digital. And because we were early adopters of all of those pieces, we kind of saw the writing on the wall with regards to the stuff.
Mhm.
I think what makes me pleasantly surprised these days, obviously AI is going to be the ultimate answer of all that. None of us saw that it would be able to dig into our businesses and be as helpful as it is. But I think one of the things that surprised me is that the continuity of the humanity in the business is the most valuable asset. I know you're supposed to say that, and somebody's got a cue card for me somewhere that says, plug the people, but it's not about that. It's
Mhm.
about the fact that these people on the journey have dedicated, kind of their entire lives, their story arc, if you will, to making all of whatever stuff the client can afford or not afford, or that the show dictates, or that the artist has to have, work in a way that's cohesive. That's not easy to do, as a business founder and leader and owner, and somebody who still works in the business every day. I need to know that I can look over my shoulder and have not be surprised by the fact that somebody's not as good at doing what they need to do as the client thought they were.
Mhm.
So what surprises me is the soul of the people that are willing to hide in the shadows, take very little credit for what we do, which is our job by definition, but leverage every piece of technology in a way that's not gadget focused, in a way that furthers the message, and perhaps if we're lucky, answers a question from a show perspective that our client didn't know how to ask us, or didn't need to know how to ask us, but we were able to deliver on something that was that serendipity, was a concert of all of the people and processes. And Amani, you've been on enough of these stages to just know when you're grooving, man, it's fun.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
grooving, and you know that you're grooving because all you're doing is what you're doing. Everybody around you is doing what they're doing, and together the audience is digging it. So from a surprise standpoint, I think it's more of a grateful. I'm grateful for the fact that the people in this business are as real as they are, and that regardless of what technological challenge we is, and we can dig into those. We've certainly been on the bleeding edge of technology for a long, long time. But regardless of what that is, it comes back to the ability of the people to glue it on the right messaging and get it in front of the audience in a way that matters to them.
Okay.
How's that for
So
dodgeball? Did I dodge that question?
well, I'll ask you about tech specifically
Somebody
later.
mute Lincoln before he chimes in. I know it's coming.
Lincoln, fire up your question.
Now, since 1991, your business has survived like multiple recessions, multiple terrorist attacks in the United States, and a pandemic. How have you, as a business, been able to survive for so long in an industry where people come and go in a matter of years?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've always been elastic by definition. We kind of modeled ourselves in the early days after Hollywood. So there's a lot of mentors of mine up there that own these film production companies that, in between production companies, they have a very small core group of people. and when they need to have the elasticity and be filming Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever they're working on that day, they have hundreds and hundreds of people. So we are very, very fortunate to be in an industry that is based on that permalancer concept. So while we have had the same people on our payroll, for 30 plus years in some cases, we have hundreds of people throughout the world that we've met on that journey that allow for us to expand and contract the business as necessary. So if I had to attribute one thing, as I would say, being right sized at the right time in our business trajectory to be able to, leverage our savings and our conservative nature about spending to stay alive and make sure that the people that are dedicated to the business are taken care of to the extent that we can afford to do so. And knowing that it was never about what was going on then, for us, it's always about the day after tomorrow. We knew tomorrow the mask was coming off, and the day after tomorrow, we all of us hoped that people still wanted to gather and get together. We certainly found that to be true. I think the pendulum swung so far to the look, Zoom's going to take over the world, to where if we pitch a Zoom meeting now and instead of a face-to-face meeting, we get left out of the room. So I think that's it. I think it's just being right sized and having the flexibility around business needs to have the people matter, the business matter, and protect the ability of the business to protect the people.
Love it. Love it. Over to you, Mandy. I could keep talking about this for days.
I know, I could too. I could too. One thing I wish my clients would do more of is like stop ordering off the AV menu and just think about their overall production more. And so, from your perspective, what is the difference between audiovisual and production?
Audiovisual, the ingredients, production is the result. So that's asking like what the difference is between playing the notes on the guitar and playing the song. To me,
Mm.
the dynamics around the stuff is like asking a plumber to come unclog the drain. I read this recently in somebody's book, and the plumber comes over to unclog the drain. The plumber doesn't come over to rent you a wrench, a drain auger of some kind. They come over to actually accomplish something. The ingredients become less important. He's no good or she's no good as the plumber if all that stuff's not in the truck outside. You need all that stuff. But at the point at which the clients start ordering off the menu, I need one microphone, two screens, that rectangle in the corner of that rectangle, it stops being about communication. It stops being where the meeting is the hero, or the congress or the joining or the connection or the face-to-face experience is the hero. And it starts being about the ingredients. When you go in and order the meals or the coffee, do you tell people I want, a more saturated blend with 2 pounds per 4 ounces of coffee? Do you tell the chef I want just a little bit of salt here and this and that? And then no, you say, I need a dinner with 3 proteins, a vegetable, and a healthy alternative for alternate meals. It's the same thing with AV. Why would you be expected to do that? In my mind, that's about not having a partner that you trust. It's about ABC AV company just needing to sell you something, to meet the quotas of what's in the room, and not focused on the results, but focused on the ingredients. And that's one of the reasons we're here. I think we all know, especially, Amani, in your world, if somebody didn't listen to what you need to succeed in your space, in a high volume, high energy space like that, the deck's stacked against you. And we don't want that to be the case when clients that have spent all this money to get us to this room in this remote location, and they come into the room and they can't communicate, people can't hear, feel, see what they need to, then it wasn't a good investment for the company. So, that's the downside of that.
I love that. That's a good delineation. And if you were to reach out to meeting planners right now, which you basically are right now, so here's your magic moment.
Right.
Like, what is something that meeting planners are making an afterthought that you are like, I wish we would have thought about this from the beginning. And I'm sure you're consulting them in a way, you're asking those questions in the beginning, but you're also not in control of every show that when they use other people or the in-house audiovisual or the in-house production companies. So what are meeting planners missing right now? Or what are some things you think that meeting planners are making an afterthought that you wish they would think about it on the front end?
I think our more valuable clients, not from our perspective, but the ones who value us more as a partner, are the ones who reach out to us at the same time they're thinking about where they're going. So I would say that, of all the pressures on us about escalated rigging, corkage costs for in-house AV, the extreme commission pressures that are put on the in-house AV folks to return those commissions to the properties, that's a lot of pressure for our colleagues. We care about those people. They're us. They're our people. It's people in black. It's the same guys in the same shadows. They're just under a heavily commissioned environment that makes it more difficult for them to stop focusing on the ingredients and focus on the whole pie. So our more valuable clients are ones again that put more pressure on us, that expect us to provide better value to them. I should say it that way. We're involved with them 5, 6, 7 years out. We're selecting venues. We're looking at contracts. We're looking for gotchas in local labor environments. We're looking for gotchas in rigging, overhead expenses, unreal or uncompetitive power charges, room environment schedules that are going to cost money that are not obvious in some cases, when that hotel doesn't want to give you that load in day or the pre-rig day, yet you still have an 8-person meeting in 2 days. Those things are going to cost money, and they're not apparent at the RFP level. So most of the planners are aware of those things. We've all been doing this for a long time, and our clients are just they're wonderful people. I think what I want to get across, and why I'm grateful to be on your show, is I want to encourage them to expect more from us. When we're telling you we're selling you a complete service, the word service is very important there. And those are things that we don't necessarily charge for. It depends on to what extent we need to do, a 9-city site selection tour versus, meeting you at the Marriott in Dallas kind of thing. But there are things that are so critical, and we find that we can save so much money if we're involved in the RFP, if we're redlining with you, if we're looking for gotchas, with regards to exclusives and things, or definitions of what a breakout means. In Las Vegas, is a 9,000 person meeting next to your 10,000 person meeting, is that really a breakout room? Or is it another session? And those are all things that people are nodding their heads now, because I have never found an environment where an exclusive agreement leads to better buying power for the meeting planner.
I'm so glad to hear you say this, because that's kind of how I approach business with my customers too. It's like, here's technically my role, right? Like, I source and I do contracts and I'm a conference expert, but I'm also going to dig you out of the ditch. And the sooner you involve me, right, the sooner I can help you. And I would love to have more partners like you on the front end. Like, I'm the one reading AV clauses right now, trying to make sure it works out for my customer, but like, I'm not the production person, and I'm sure there's things that I'm missing. So I think that's some sage wisdom out there for meeting planners or live event organizers that are listening or watching is, and don't just involve your production partners, like involve everybody on your team to be like, hey, how does this look? Yeah. How does this help you? Any vendor that you trust, involve them from the beginning like that, because they will catch things. Like you said, you will catch things that with your eye that will cost them money down the road, but it's better to do it early on than, okay, we're in the 90-day planning phase. It's like, no. Like, let's do this 2 years out. Let's do this 3 years out. I love that. That's sage wisdom, Jonathan.
Yeah,
So-
no, and I go ahead, Amani.
Well, okay, because we had a question from the audience, but you want to make a comment first or no?
Yeah.
I was just
sure.
going to say, it's the difference between how people buy different parts of the triangle. You need place to sleep, place to gather, something to eat. Those are the 3 things that every conference has to have. If you look up trying to harmonize how those purchasing thoughts are put together, you're looking, okay, I'm going to do a 5-year deal with Marriott or whoever the hotel chain is, because we're going to have a great growth clause. We're going to have, better buying power. We're going to lock up and be secure in all the risks that come in this industry. We're going to secure that all the way out. And then, 90 days out in 5 different cities, you're hoping to engage with your AV contractor. It's just out of alignment. Which is why, we're focused on de-risking. And I want to circle back to that a little bit more, because I think one of the things you find in a company like ShowTec is you're managing risk in a way that is, almost 35 years old. So there's a lot of mistakes we've made that we're not going to make on your dime.
Interesting.
Awesome.
So our buddy Lincoln asked the question here. He says, what do your most successful clients get right in the planning process from concept to execution?
Communication. It really is to agree with leadership, to have access to senior leadership and to the stakeholders in the meeting, to understand which direction they need us to run, which way are we going to roll the ball, and then to pave the way for the ball to roll as smoothly and consistently down that path over a multi-year strategy, in some cases, most cases, as it needs to. We know we have 500 people this year, 600 next year, 700 the next year. Procurement wants the budget to be flat, which, we all chuckle at. And then we try to leverage long-term and, multi-pronged relationships to make the value there so the money people are happy, but to always stay focused on why did the bean counter get told by the stakeholder who was told by the C-suite that we're going to get together and we're going to celebrate where we've been and educate people about where we're going. So we have to understand why we're putting those rectangles in rectangles, not just be told I need 6 people on stage. There's a DJ coming on the final night, and wait till you see the centerpieces. That's not enough from a strategic standpoint for a communications partner, which is how we see ourselves, part of your communication strategy to be valuable. So I would say that the one thing, and Lincoln does this very well, just to shout Lincoln out for a second.
Go Lincoln.
And his team, and and the folks above him, they see the value in what we do, and we feel that, and my team appreciates that and returns every bit of that care back to those long-term strategies. And we're fortunate to have some very big brands on our wall here, and that is the one consistency. The thing we see differently between the people that are on the big brands is that they're strategic in how they partner. They're strategic in a way that they want to find a high value direct to provider relationship. It's a little more difficult these days, as when you're going through 4 or 5 levels of contractors, it's getting more difficult for people to be able to afford things with the cost of things these days. And they're up against that killer show they did last year. Yet, having to manage so many parts and pieces is risky and expensive. And the longer we know and the more strategically aligned are with your client's client, and what they expect to get for, what a $10, baguette looks like, the more they're not going to be surprised when they get a $2 baguette that they spent $10 for.
Interesting. I did catch your Back to the Future reference with the flux capacitor. I do have to shout
Thank
that
you.
out.
I did
Mandy,
too.
you did too, Mandy?
Well, I was gonna shout time flux capacitator, but then I was like, well,
Oh,
I gave
goodness.
myself a mute button. Yeah.
Lisa didn't
A
understand.
rare
I wanted to-
mute.
She was
I wanted to
Googling
make
it
sure
here
I
over my
said-
folder.
I wanted to make sure I said that. And then I want to
What
ask
did you
you
just say?
two more questions kind of on the same topic. The first one is, since you mentioned AI, people who aren't educated on AI feel that it's going to take the place of humans. What's your perspective on AI in terms of how it's going to be implemented and used in the meetings and events industry?
Yeah, those are great questions. It's one I get to address in many stages and many different formats, and it's absolutely going to take people's jobs. There's no question about the fact that the people that aren't going to learn to use it as a tool, I think of it as the typewriter or the word processor. It's coming. The word processor's coming whether you love your typewriter or not. And I have both of my kids are in college. For some reason, they both want to be in the entertainment industry. So obviously, I'm not a good communicator. I would have won that battle. And we have this conversation, when I'm home with them all the time. They both want to be in creative related fields. And I just encourage them. I said, as your friends are that are coding and gaming and creating these engineering environments that are far more complex than people all of our ages can compete with, take that opportunity to be as good at that as you learn the piano that is AI, to be the best one to play it in the room. So I think that it is going to take some jobs, and those jobs are going to go one or two directions. They're going to go to something that is more blue collar in nature and something that AI can't turn the wrench when I need a plumber, can it? You listen to Jensen Wang say that very, very well at NVIDIA. But I think in our industry specifically, I like to have a conversation with chat in the morning on the way to work. What's going on in the world? How has our industry been affected? What news might I have missed in my channels? And how can I apply that to enrich my client's experience with me? And I do it while I'm driving. She talks to me, which is nice. Understands that I don't want just high fives every morning about how wonderful it is. We all have those exercise coaches and things like that are in the AI or the real space, to your previous guest. But I think that it's just like anything else. It's are you going to learn to use it as a tool in such a way that you're more valuable than the people that can't use it? So the ones that choose not to use it and evolve, and there's people that are much, much better at it than I am, and I'm so far behind in that capacity. I'm going to expect that that's going to be a leveling factor for them. They have a new tool. It's like, again, a manual screwdriver, power screwdriver. Who's going to get the screw in first?
Okay. So I want to ask 2 follow-up questions, then back to you, Manny. So the first one is with regards to, you have 2 kids in college. Based on all the people you've worked with over the past, we'll say 40 plus years in the industry, what have been the most common characteristics of the ones who have been the most successful?
Mandy, you can answer that one. You're talking to her, right? I have no idea. Oh,
I
wait,
would
we mix it up later. I got my cues backwards. I thought
Yeah,
this
yeah,
was
yeah.
mixed up now.
Yeah, we mix it up later.
Oh,
You got 8 more minutes for that.
Lord. Um, I'm just gonna keep coming back to being real.
Mhm.
Say what you mean what you say, be good at what you do it well. There's a mantra in the flight world. A lot of my friends are pilots, and there's a mantra that says, "Plan the flight and fly the plan." And the people that have been most influential to me are the ones that can do that. And not in a way that's not stuffy or uptight or analytical or egghead or bean counter type ways, but in a way that you get up in the morning and you know something's coming out of some left field somewhere and you're ready for it. Because in that environment, bringing it back to a show environment, you plan for those surprises. You have contingency plans. It's built into both budgets and designs, such that if somebody comes on and says, "Oh, by the way, the marching band that was next door wants to come in the room and play," there's 70 of them. How many microphones did you guys have? Those types of "oh, by the ways."
Mhm,
You
mhm.
punt, and you knew it was coming. We didn't know there was a marching band, but we knew somebody was coming out of that door because the door is there, and somebody always comes through the door. So there's all these people. You mentioned Bono, who's always, I think, to me as a very amateur musician and somebody that's always appreciated vocals and instrumentals, his invention of the falsetto, or at least propagation of the falsetto into the rock and roll space, was something that was very, very risky, but something that became key to their timbre and tone, and such that you knew when it was Sunday Bloody Sunday, because he was in those registers that he shouldn't have been there, but because he was there, you felt the emotion behind what he was doing, and you shut up and you listen, and that's very much what we do. That's what you guys do on stage so well as speakers, and I love listening again to the stagecraft thing. That one just really kind of hit home for me,
Mhm.
because you're talking about people that move their heads or their hands or all these other things. Excuse me. But what to me is most important is the motion and the kinesis and the psychology around the room was what the room needed for it to be, to hit home. And so the people that I've found that have been most successful on that rainbow as they slide to their pot of gold, are those people that have anticipated that they're going that way and were loved that the surprises were there, because that's the business we're in.
Okay.
Mm.
And then my follow-up to that would be, as a professor, I work with a lot of students who are potentially entering into the industry. But lately, I'll say starting, before the pandemic, through the pandemic, and now, for the undecided people who are a little scared or wary about joining our industry, the hospitality industry, meetings and events industry, what's your message to them in terms of why it's such a good industry to join and to be a part of and to grow up in?
I think we had one of the biggest kind of Great Recession style gut checks in our industry that could have ever happened in the pandemic. The opportunity for us to gather as humans was completely taken away from us. And we had no say in it. We had no optics on where it was going, when it was going. And we were just told the new normal is this, what we're doing today. Um, while I believe in podcasting because it's an election, we choose to be here to educate ourselves and to celebrate each other's success and help each other grow our businesses. What that did for the reality check of the fact that humans are going to find a way to gather. They're going to find a way around the waterfall and climb the hill and get to the food. It's going to happen, and that in their space, in terms of the my kids and people in your classes, are going to get to, is that we had a hypothesis that gathering could be this. It could be flat on this screen in front of me, and that was going to be enough. It was wrong. And we all know that it was wrong. So there's going to be a hunger to find ways that make perfect and solid business sense, that fit the risk profiles of the biggest companies in the world, to get together and feed on this human energy, that the psychography of and the energy in the room, that are so very important to what we do. And the fact that we are aligning as well as we are now, because we all got smacked in the face and said, "Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, do I have to go get a real job?"
Mhm.
The fact that we were faced with that, terrifying prospect, and then the fact that we were reminded how valuable what all of us do is, makes me more comfortable when my kids have decided not to be a plumber and to chase their dream and to be really, really good at what you do. And I think the success will follow, And if we support them, at our generation, if we support them in that direction with realistic expectations, I liked HPN. He said, you're not going to make as much money here as you are being a doctor, I think is what he said,
Mhm.
or in other
Mhm.
professions.
Yeah.
But you're going to have a career that you're excited about coming to each day. And I think you're going to move the needle in ways that, you don't do in those more traditional careers.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Back to you, Mandy.
Well, I want to talk about warehouses, trucks, and people because this happens, I would say, every 1 out of 4 productions where a light bulb blows, a piece of equipment doesn't work, and if there isn't a backup plan nearby, then we're in trouble. So I'm I think you have a differentiator as a business in terms of the access to inventory, how you manage logistics, and then your people. Can you just share that a little bit?
Yeah, so we discovered through our journey, as I mentioned earlier, we've made a lot of mistakes and made a lot of successes along this route that we've been on. And one of the things we realized in the early days when we were an agency, if you will, we were some young designers. We had some drafting tables in a little office here in San Diego, and we were the designers, and we would do the drawings and call 5 or 6 or 7 suppliers and hope that every one of those guys, were also talking together and that we were managing it as kind of a general contractor, such that when they all showed up, they were as cohesive as the promise was that we made to our customer, that we'd have an efficient, tight load in, that nobody would get hurt, that we would be on schedule, on budget, and on message through the whole journey. And what we've done for the past 35 years in that stead, if you will, is we, more so probably in the first 15 years, is we became our vertical supply chains because we realized that we were very, very passionate about promises that were specifically focused on business theater, on corporate's objectives and needs to communicate. And those weren't the same goals that the folks had that were doing music festivals, that were providing, fencing and structures for, rodeos and rock concerts and things. While we do a lot of those things and the ingredients are the same, the spirit and the mindset around those things are completely different. What's important to a Fortune 50 company about their exposure to risk, exposure to PR, and to things that move the value of their stocks if they're not working the way that they need to, are not acceptable to be delivered in a way that they are at a rock show or a festival or at Coachella or one of the shows that we all want to be at because they're as magical as they are. So it's a different subset in that capacity. And one of the reasons that we do have the studios complex here and we do provide all of the ingredients or most of the ingredients that we need, with the exception of talent and the things that you guys do with regards to venues and transportation logistics, but all of the stuff necessary to sort of amplify the message comes out of our buildings or consolidated into a dedicated transportation fleet where our people are never out of control of the things that we need to succeed. We don't do retail rentals. We don't send things out the side doors. Obviously, we're professionals and collaborate with other professionals, but from the day that our gear is born to the day that we sell it into the used marketplace, it's purpose built and purpose specified to help businesses grow their messaging and grow with their messaging and communicate with their audiences. So it took us a while to stay focused or to get focused. One of the follow-ups to the question earlier was, how have you made it? 35 years, guys, that's a
Mhm.
lifetime.
Yeah.
It's because we were willing to be wrong. We were willing to say, okay, we used to do all these things. We used to have as much as half of our business be big, big parties. And then it became uncool to have corporations throw these huge parties. Why did you hire the Rolling Stones to do that? That wasn't fiscally responsible. And we couldn't
Mhm.
disagree. And if we were really doing what we were saying that we were doing, we were listening to the leadership of those companies say, now it's time for us to change direction and reinvigorate our clients and customers and staff in different ways. And let's work together to find out what those are. And that's exactly what we do now.
Do you think clients get that? Like, I get that. And I guess if you've been doing this a long time, most clients get that of like how important that is that you're working with a vendor that actually understands and owns their own supply chain. And it's a luxury because not all businesses can run efficiently and effectively enough to be able to do that. But like to have your own warehouses, to have your own trucks, and to have your core group of people, I think is brilliant and very difficult to do. Like, do you think customers get how important that is?
Probably not. That's great for you to help us amplify that message. What we're not good at, and then I'll circle back to answer your question more directly, is is kind of tooting our own horn. We've never been very good at outbound communications. This is an effort from us to help reach more people. We want to meet more people that care about the work that all of us are doing, and which is why we're on your show. So to dig into that a little bit more, I would say not necessarily, but it's a bigger question in one specific way that I want to draw delineation with, and that's the fact that lots of people own lots of gear, but do they own the right kind of gear? And are they right minded in such that they can use the gear in a way that's wholly purposed or wholly focused on helping you, the planner and producer, grow your business? One of the favorite things that I've ever done, and I know you spun at this a little bit in the lead into one of these, is we had the opportunity to do, I think, 7 or 8 Super Bowls over the course of our history quite a while ago, when we weren't solely focused on corporate meetings as we are now. And in that capacity, we were working for a tiny little office in Sausalito that had 3 people. And it was David and Goliath. Everybody wanted to have this pageantry environment. A dear friend and mentor of mine in the early days, his name was David, said, "Look, I have this little business. Your business, has all this stuff. Let's work together and make these huge experiences." And we didn't do the halftime shows. We were in charge of lighting the entire stadium. Pageantry festivals surrounded those things. But let's work together to grow our businesses together. And I had a client who had, the biggest client in the world care about my business and care about the fact that if we as collaborators and creators could work together, for me to bring some ingredients and him to bring some ingredients and together deliver that, we could accomplish, as a very small business, the biggest shows in the world. And that's what we're focused on. The people we're hoping to connect with in your space are not necessarily the Fortune 50 brands, because we work with them, and some of those people may be on the call, and we're very, very focused on those brands, but we're also focused on the people, because their journey is not always with those brands. So we're building relationships with planners who need us to help them move the needle, such that the promise they're asked to meet from their leadership team, they know they can turn around and depend on us, regardless of what logo's on the card or what scale they are. They can turn to us and know that we're going to be on that journey with them, the way we have grown, with big companies from when they, just got started. That's the nice part about being around this long and having the resources that we do, is that we can say, I know that you're not there today, but let's get there together tomorrow, and, trust us, be loyal to us, and we'll be loyal to you. And I think that there's certain parts of the industry where that is the case. But so much of the industry tries to commoditize what all of us do. And it is not in businesses' interest to not allow us to build the relationships that our clients are spending money to build with their customers. Sometimes we're not listening to why we're in the room. Let's do what they're doing. Let's get together and do good business together. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now I think you've been looking forward to this segment of the show. We allow you to flip the script and ask both myself and Mandy any question you like. Nothing is off limits. So, who do you want to ask the question to first, and what is that question?
I only get one. That's not fair.
Well, you get one.
Oh,
for
you get
each of us.
2. One for each of us.
I get 2.
Yes,
or
yes.
whatever. However many you take over,
I
Jonathan.
like it.
Whatever.
I like
I'm
it.
tired.
Thank you.
Whatever you want.
I'm intrigued, Imani, by what you do, because you have to put it all out there. You have to come out there with a hard drive, a laptop, a Serato box, and you have to make people move, groove, jive, have a high amount of energy. What is it that you expect from the community around you from a technical perspective that allows for you to be as good at what you do, knowing that, there's people back there that you don't even know, that were on a rider, that are going to do what you hopefully asked to do, and which is going to be the absolute keystone to how you're going to succeed that night. What advice do you have? What do you need from us? How can we be better at listening to what an artist needs to succeed with our toolkit?
I would say, first read the writer. So many people just don't read the writer. So
Green
read the
M&Ms, it's always in there.
writer. Yes, the green M&Ms. Yes. So that,
We'll explain that
um,
to you later, Mandy. It's okay.
and
Okay.
just,
I
uh,
fulfilled writers. That was my first production job.
That's true.
I
I
love
remember that.
I
You said
love a
that.
green M&M writer. Yeah.
green M&M, and
Mhm.
just make sure that the equipment works, and that if there's an issue, we can work together, because I can help figure it out, or I need help figuring it out, and just communication, as you said. And that's really it. It's simple, but sometimes it gets to be so complex. But it's just communicating, make sure the equipment works. If there's cues that need to be met, make sure that those are also communicated. And if there's changes, just share them with me, because a lot of times they forget about music, they forget about the DJ in terms of cues or changes.
Right.
Just communicate. And, if there's things that have happened that I need to know, let me know. And just as long as the equipment is working, the sound is good, we are well on our way.
And I'll add to that something that I want you to want from us is that we respect the value of the craft that you bring to the table. If there's nobody on the microphone's worthless.
Mhm. True.
And just let you know, we know that, and
Hmm.
we come from different backgrounds through our capacity. Lots of which of us have been performers at some level or not. But in the absence of somebody to activate our equipment, we shouldn't even take it out of the truck. So thank you for what you do. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice, and it's something that my team, who I'm sure will watch this at some point, will appreciate hearing from an artist.
Absolutely.
So
Mandy, you're
Mandy, on
up.
my side, it's go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. You got it. You're on. It's
I
up.
was gonna say, I'm Mandy on my side. It's kind of what we talk about at the conferences when I come to listen to your talks, and you help me with my staff, Lisa, and those folks grow our ability to do what you do, so much better than we can do it. Is what can we do better? Having amplified and having you help us amplify this message to reach some of these planners that are we kind of feel that, oh wow, nice car someday. Yeah, ShowTec, are you kidding? We're just not there yet. And there are economies of scale, and we understand that, but taking into account all of the strategic and relationship dynamics that we've talked about us depending on each other and meaning it, not being transactional, but being strategic. What can we do better to reach the next generation and this generation of planners to help us grow our value in the business as a partner?
Ooh, I love this question. 7 things came to mind. I'm not gonna list all 7, but but I think the first thing is continuously in a unconditional love sort of way, give value, educate people, educate, even people that have been doing this as long as I have, I still want to learn what is new, what are you putting out there, what's a unique set that you've done, like what are swaps? I think swaps, because AV and production are very, very hot topics. I'll be in Atlanta next Friday. I'm moderating a panel on this exact topic. And it's what are some swaps? Okay. So if you don't have this amount of money, what swap can you do to get a similar experience for this amount of money? And obviously, you're not going to be quoting people or whatever, but like, I don't know if that is a quick 2-minute read once a month out to your email list, or I don't know if that's a LinkedIn post, or, it's making your existing customers better, giving them value, giving them think, and then like third parties and agents like us sharing, like, look at this cool set that we did at this hotel. I think bragging about that, like you said, like we haven't been great about bragging about ourselves. Like if you don't brag about yourself, nobody else is. Nobody else will. It's really up to you. And I also like to know, if I'm looking at a hotel and I've shortlisted a hotel and I know that there's a relationship, like, this one hotel, like you've done meetings at this Intercontinental San Diego, and the client's deciding between 3 hotels, and you already know how the inside of that hotel works. That helps us better make that site selection decision, right? So I think, like you said, getting involved in the beginning, but I think giving value to us, so educating us on what's new, the bells and whistles, how are you using AI, how can we use AI, unconditional love, right? It's not always a transactional, like you're going to give us some information, we're going to give you something back. We may not give you something back right away, but if I see you knocking on my door enough, I'm going to give you some things eventually. And if I don't have something to give, I'm going to tell like 5 of my meeting planner friends, like, you should try ShowTech. Like, they seem to know a lot about this kind of stuff, right? And then I just think like helping us make better decisions. And I think you guys do a great job at that. You show up to the conferences. Like, Lisa's everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see Lisa. She's involved in all of these different organizations and preaching the good word about what you do. But I think if you want to turn it up, amplify that with the value, turn up that value out there over and over and over again by giving some unconditional love in the form of education and swaps. I think everybody needs to know swaps. And I also think it's important. This isn't adversarial. It is not the in-house AV
Totally.
versus the production company. Like you said, like we're all the people in black. We all work together. And there is a space where, our production company handles the general session and the in-house AV handles the breakouts, and it all works out for everybody. Like, you may need an extension of staff, and a couple of those in-house people may be great for you to do that. So I think it's like also letting customers know, like, it's not us or them, like we can work together. And then I think the last thing, and this is something I encounter a lot, is the Gen Z generation is extremely independent, and they are extremely, I'll go figure it out on my own. Like, it's almost like they want to put you in a constant state of a bidding war. Like, I'll go, okay, oldie moldy Mandy, or okay, like you boomer, I'll go figure this out and get a better deal on my own. I think there's a way to educate that generation of like, okay, yes, we know you're resourceful. We know you can find information like 7 times faster than we can, but it's not always as turnkey as you think. And here's like a couple questions. So I don't know if like when you're serving on a panel or something, and if you're like, hey, as you're shopping for a production company, here's 3 or 4 questions to ask that are going to lead you down the right road, or something like that. Just
Yeah.
empowering that younger generation more. They're going to do the research anyways, just like empower them to ask better questions as they're shopping.
Yeah, no, I like that. And we, again, we don't find that same Gen Z planner asking how much of the $70 dinner is the chicken, how much are the vegetables. Why can't I have a line item quote on that round plate full of food?
Yes.
It's funny when, I think the community is willing to trust the chef and not trust the production design team.
Mhm.
So we've earned that trust with a lot of people in the ecosystem. And I love what you're saying, because yeah, we're not as good at that as we should be. And I'm here to get better at it. And that's what's going to get us to 40 and 45. I'm working on the next 5-year plan now. So I hear that. I'm grateful for it. And I would love to meet some of the folks out there that we can have that conversation with in a non-self-serving way. I think that, we never come to the table saying, what have you done for me lately? It's just not what we're about. If anything, we're not about it so much to the wrong way as we would love to meet some new clients and work with some new people. And I think that as you grow your business as independent planners and producers, we're a great resource for you, because there's nobody between you, us, and the client. There's not 5 layers of subcontractors. You have a low risk, high impact way to make those promises what they need to be to succeed in your career personally. We're like, the yoga class. In the morning, you work on your body. In the afternoon, you work on your business. You want us there when you're working on your business, because, not so much the yoga part. I can't help you there, but
I mean, you're nimble. You're nimble like yoga. Like,
but yeah, exactly. Like
You're
Yoda, the little
laughing-
green guy,
you're
that
laughing
guy.
like yoga.
Exactly. But I think in that situation, you're going to find like-minded people who are also trying to grow our business. And if we do it together, I think we can get down the road a lot quicker than if we don't.
I agree.
Now, I'm curious. You went to San Diego State, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if we go back and talk to Jonathan the day he is graduating from San Diego State and give him advice based on everything you've learned so far in life, what advice would you have for your younger self?
I know you can ask this.
It's my favorite question.
It's really not as business focused as, I
That
think
works.
the topic would take us to. While I've always been a hustler. I've always wanted to understand that there's 2 words in show business, and that both of them are critical: show and business. And I've always been interested in business, but more talented on the show side than a traditional business career. So I would say be confident in your decision to have professional dyslexia. If you see a squirrel, it's not always wrong to chase the squirrel. And I was time where I felt like the institutional structure that was around me said, pick one. Your left brain or right brain, you can't be both. You're a musician or you're a technician, you can't be both. And I was not confident in that in those days. I felt I would finish my 3rd job setting up AV at the Hotel Del, and then pushing faders at SeaWorld, and then go to my real job, and then go to school the next morning, going, wow, I'm just spreading myself too thin. And in retrospect, what I would have liked to have is the confidence to know that each of those touch points were so valuable in my ability to put together what has become ShowTec. And the fact that you were humbled every day and forced to listen to people that were, your mentors, or people that were so far beyond your level, because you were never the one that was leading at that point. I think I would have been a much better leader if I would have just said, yeah, and this is how showbiz works. We don't know what's coming in that door, but we know it's going to come in and hit us in the head. And and ironically, that's exactly what I do with my kids now. I said, no, that's your plan. That's not how the show's going to go. You think that it's going to go that way, but what happens when it doesn't?
Yes.
And I would have loved to have that confidence and that guidance. And I think, as a professor, and what I hope and I get to lecture occasionally at universities too. And I always kind of come in, kind of off kilter because you have all these art majors, right? MFA candidates for theatrical design and television design and whatnot. And the first thing I talk about is if you can't sell your art, you're going to starve. You're going to cut off your ear and go
Mm,
crazy. I think it's happened before. There's history about this, right? So
mhm.
you have to have the ability to have show and business on your curriculum. It can't be show business and have it all be about the show. If you don't understand business and why what you have is valuable to the people that are buying it, then you're a one-legged pony. And I didn't know that as much as I would have liked to have known that. And I encourage you to share it. I certainly do with my kids. And I love the perspective that you guys are bringing me because it helps me hold a mirror to those concepts and see if we are as good for our planning community and our producing community as we think we are. And I think we have a lot to learn.
Yeah, great answer. Shout out to Sherry Stauder, who quoted a couple of the favorite quotes from today. So thank you, Sherry. Over to you, Mandy, to close us out.
Two final questions. So you have said, I prefer being in the shadows, not in the spotlight. From a leadership perspective, how has this served you and your community and your business?
About not being in the spotlight. I'm trying to make sure I understand the
Yeah, yeah,
question.
being in the shadows, not being in the spotlight.
Think about that term right now that you hear, all of the Wall Streeters say, a servant leader.
Mhm.
That came to me very early in my career when we started doing fashion shows for Nordstrom in the 90s, where we would come into your local Nordstrom, Fashion Valley, New York City, wherever it happened to be, take all of the clothes out of the women's couture section, bring in a huge rig of shows overnight after the store closed, and put on a fashion show in the next morning. And they'd be gone by lunch so that all the ladies and guys could come in and start shopping again. And what I saw in the Nordstrom leadership became a foundation for what, I wanted to be is all of the store managers and senior managers and regional managers, everybody was all hands on deck because they realized that if they were a servant leader, if they were in the shadows, that the business objectives were going to be met about wowing the audience and the audience would, change their behavior, their buying behavior based on that wow factor that they just saw. So I've taken that away in many, many different ways, and I'm kind of amused now when my big customers talk about servant leadership and the fact that
Mhm.
that's exactly what that was. And Nordstrom referred to it as the inverted triangle. I think that was well documented in the coaching books in the early '90s. But I've always wanted to be that. And again, when I challenged myself, when I sat there and said, okay, how am I going to celebrate 35? What I'm really thinking about is how am I going to make it to 40 as a business, and what value do I add? Am I the best one to add the value? What I challenge myself to do is to do exactly this. I have no problem communicating with people. You guys see that. I'm comfortable. I love these conversations, whether they're on camera or whether they're over a nice glass of wine. This is the art of communication and what we're doing today, regardless of who's looking at it. But what I'm most excited about is the fact that if I have to be the one that comes out of the spotlight, that I never lose sight of the fact that my job is to amplify the story of others. So that's what I mean by be in the shadows. Be in the shadows, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons that are necessary to tell a story that's valuable to my business in a way that's much bigger and more impactful than the scale of my small business will be.
That's beautiful. Well, I mean, speaking of serving, you've spent over an hour with us, and we know that every minute, every second is so, so valuable. How can we serve you? How can we lift you up? How can we support this great work that you're doing?
It's just do what you do. You guys are so good at making me and other people comfortable about talking about what we're good at and not good at. So, to be honest with us about how you can help us grow. We're here to grow. We have to, one of our clients put up a very interesting theme to their conference this year. Was a crypto customer, huge meeting in New York City. And we're waiting to hear the theme. We all wanted to run and chase it. The theme came out of the creative agency. It's called Scale or Die.
Mm.
That's a conference theme. We're gonna put the word die on a 30-foot poster and wrap it on the side of a building. Scale or die. I'm like, wow, are you kidding? Wow. And then you start thinking about it. If we don't scale our businesses, all of us, then we're going to become obsolete through the costs
Mhm.
of inflation and the needs of our people not growing and those kinds of things. So I need your help to help us understand how to be better at how we can tell our story. I'm so grateful in the camaraderie and the fact that you guys, see the value in what we do. I need this podcast that you guys are so good at, these amplifiers that are not in our toolkit. We're not in the business of talking about ourselves. Help us donate, find the right people to talk to, help us contribute, help us earn a seat at a table that we don't even know is set somewhere in some room that we've never been to.
Yes.
Say your name in a room where nobody's saying it. You can
Yes,
count on
yes.
us. You can count on us. We will
Exactly.
do
I
that,
give 'em
Jonathan.
the little fingers that are snapping.
I love it. I love that.
Well, we appreciate the time you've given us, the wisdom you shared, the stories. And so we'll definitely continue to support and amplify your message, all our messages. So just thank you. We're going to put you back in the green room really quickly. Another round of applause for Jonathan Martin for joining us there. Round of applause there.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, ShowTec. This has been awesome. Yeah, we could have talked another hour. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Mandy, we are off to our next show. Who do we have to look forward to next week?
We have the guy that says, don't be boring. Richard Liverman
Yes.
coming to us from across the pond. He's
Yes.
hilarious. He wears pink shoes, and he's the founder of Richer Solutions, which is a really good coaching company. He makes people amazing. Very simple, but he
All
says,
right.
don't be boring. Yeah, he's very,
Don't
very
be
fun
boring.
interview.
Can't wait. Thanks again to Jonathan Martin for a great interview today and conversation. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you leave a rating or review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to. Tell a friend. And with that, we will see you next week for another episode of Adventures in Business Live. Take
See
care,
you next
everyone.
week. Bye. Thank you.